Hi, this is a spoiler warning. I don't want to do that to you. I have immense compassion for people who don't want storylines spoiled to them and everything. I don't want to put you through that. So if this is about 86, it's one of my favorites. I wanted to say that I just experienced a moment in the book that really blew my mind, and I'm psyched, and I the hair on the back of my neck just stood up in awe and reverence and everything. And I don't want to put you through it and everything, but I want to rewind this. And if you haven't finished the seventh volume and absolutely hate uh spoilers, click off, man. So something happened at the end of the chapter, and it's really I just want to read it to you, and what happened and everything, and just get you the sense of everything that just transpired. So Shin looked away because the reason he opened his heart to Oliver easily was because he was once just as obsessed over his brother. If she has been assimilated by the region, then it has to be me who puts her to rest. And then it goes to this. Shine knows, and it's already been stated that all further queries would be rejected. And then he writes, this is Zelene, one of the Legion that's been captured, basically, in the storyline at this point in stage and things. I heard what you said, but that doesn't mean I was satisfied with that. Shin stood before her final unresolved question. Celine's golden optical center gazed at him through the glass of her confinement room's window, and it was there, Shin thought, that the final craven rested. The optical sensor was artificial and should not have harbored any emotions, but there was a light to it. He finally realized that from the beginning she was waiting for something, waiting for someone. Ever since she left the message, "Come find me," not knowing her words might reach someone in whom they might find. Once before, I asked why you created a legion, and I still want to hear the answer to that. But even as he posed the question, Shin believed he already knew the answer, and he was right in all her silences, that and the way that she seemed to probe and test him, and her strange sense of caution would make sense. Had Fido, the AI his father developed, been completed, the Republic may truly have achieved a battlefield of zero casualties. But Shin didn't like that idea. Even if they did find Fido now and use it to fight the Legion in place of the Confederacy's Republic and United Kingdom soldiers, Shin wasn't happy about that idea. But someone who didn't know Fido, who wasn't attached to it, might make a different choice. Had his father, who developed the AI for the sake of befriending people, had been forced to pick between mass-producing Fido and sending it out to a battlefield, or sending it out to people who to fight, out to fight, perhaps he would have chosen the farmer too. And the same held true for Zelene, or at least it held true for her when she was still alive and developed the region. I wanted you to come back to me. Even now, he could hear her final words, the person she called to in her final moments, the brother she lost to friendly fire, the sibling she wished to see return to her, even as she drew her last breath. You created a legion to fight in our place so that war would never again claim a human life. The golden lunar optical sensor focused on Shin intently. The Legion didn't fear destruction, they didn't fear death. They were unflinching, obedient machines, bred for war, created to fight in place of soldiers who would otherwise die by the thousands. She didn't create them to kill people. They were never meant to be harbingers of death. And you don't want anyone to die even now. That's why you don't carelessly relinquish information, the information you possess. You don't want another country to try to develop technology comparable to the Legion and use it to invade other nations. When he was young, Vika's one wish was to bring his mother back to life. Shin's father, though he could hardly remember what he looked like, attempted to develop an artificial intelligence that would live alongside humankind. And Zelene, who had befriended them both, likely felt the same way. All she ever wanted. From the beginning, you were trying to protect people, weren't you? She didn't seem to want to see. She didn't want to see anyone die, just like Shin for a long moment. Query. Her voice cracked. It was as if she attempted to fill it with scorn, but failed miserably. Let us assume you are correct. What will you do then? Forgive us? Will you forgive the Legion 86 after we have slain so many of your fragile comrades? We have robbed you of your homeland, your family, and your friends. It could have been us who turned your loved ones against you. For a moment, Shin was at a loss for words. An emotion up within him. It had been 7 years since he'd learned his brother was made into a mechanical ghost, and 2 years since he'd defeated him. But even now, he didn't know what to call this emotion. He replies, yes, that might be true. He didn't quite spit out the words, but they simply left his lips. He didn't want to fight them. He didn't want to fight him, but he was a Legion. He had been turned into a Legion unit, and if Shin didn't destroy the mechanical monstrosity that served as his prison, his brother's soul would likely weep and howl until the end of time. But this was why Shin couldn't leave him behind. He had to fight him, and the underlying cause was, without a doubt, the restrained enemies in front of him. It wasn't a question of possibility. This woman was the one who turned his brother against him. Resubmitting query: why do you not harbor an enemy towards us? Why do you not harbor hatred? Why do you not resent us? Why do you insist on forgiving me? Shin narrowed his eyes. Forgive her? I'm not forgiving you. I never resented you in the first place. I don't want to resent you. Doing that would achieve nothing. It was if one was to ask if he was a broken, maddened man, perhaps he would say that he was. He had lost his family and had been denied a homeland. But he didn't hate the one who took them from him. No normal person could feel this way. But even still, he didn't hate her. He didn't want to hate her, and he couldn't bring himself to, because he knew hating the Alba, protecting the world, loathing the Legion, none of it would bring back what he lost. Hating something wouldn't make the Alba, the world, or the Legion suddenly care about the pain and suffering he'd endured. So why he didn't feel any hatred or resentment, because he knew those feelings were pointless. Wallowing in them wouldn't result in anything of substance. And besides, hatred and resentment, if I chose to hold on to these feelings, it would be no better than the ones who made me who I am. Maybe what I am. That was the 86's pride. It was the only thing to their name, since they couldn't even afford to embrace their negative emotions. At the edge of his field of vision, he could see Lena watching over him, her hands clasped before her chest reverently. And it was then that he realized ever so slightly the meaning behind her wish. The world and its people aren't necessarily kind. The world can be cold and cruel. But in that moment, Shin thought that the nightmare that he had lived through might not be an accurate reflection of humankind's true nature. He didn't want it to believe it was. He knew all too well how vulgar people could be, more than he could have ever hoped to know, and the examples of truly admirable human ability were too few and far between. But if he had to choose between one or the other, to be true human's nature, he much preferred to pick nobility. And it was because of that wish that Lena posited that the world ought to be a beautiful place. She too, I added to, she knew how ugly the world was, but she refused to acknowledge the ugliness as the natural order. She refused to give up on the world, not as a simple idea but as the declaration of her pride. The worlds they knew have been different altogether. Perhaps they couldn't believe in people the world would be the same just yet, but their desire to never give up, to never grow complacent, was likely one and the same. The story has been consistent from start to finish. I mean, everything that we found out about the Legion's creation and everything, it's all here. It's coming full circle. And you're not looking to be forgiven either. You just can't accept the world as it is right now. You couldn't accept it, and you wanted to change it. She couldn't accept a world where people had to throw their wives away on the battlefield. Nor could she accept a world in which the Legion she created were the leading contributions to the unparalleled bloodshed. You don't want people to die. You didn't want that when you were alive, and you don't want that now. And since that is since that was your earnest wish, you want to stop the war and to stop the legion. Am I right? A long, heavy silence descended on the room, but eventually, Zelene, the merciless queen, gave her answer. Yes, that hit like a bombshell as an answer in this part of the book. She is a member of the Legion without a doubt, but she's apparently haunted by what is happening. Her voice felt like a long, lamenting sigh. For the first time, her voice struck Shin as truly human. Yes, you're right. By now, this all feels like nothing more than a series of terrible mistakes, but all I wanted was to save people. Her words of penitence echoed heavily within the partitioned closed space. The confinement room and observation rooms were demarcated by a borderline of reinforced acrylic plates, and they stood on both sides of this confessional like a sinner and a priest, as if she was begging for forgiveness. And then she said to them the words the Federacy, the United Kingdom, and the Alliance soldiers had all been waiting to hear. Very well. I will answer your questions. I will tell you all that I know, as well as the information I sought to relay, but only under one condition. Shine Nozen and Victor Konalak, I will speak only to you two. Everyone else must leave. All recordings, all methods of observation and communication must end. Turn everything off. Given the importance of the information Zelene offered, her request was far too simple. But upon hearing what she had to say, Vika could only sigh. A long sigh uncharacteristic of this cold-blooded serpent. If you know who Vika is by now, this is very true. You know, although, to be honest with you, I admire his willingness to go the extra mile, but still, you know, that is a product of realizing just how badly outmatched they were, you know, and that the Legion was advancing faster than human biology could keep up. I can't believe it. He temporarily cut off the microphone to the confinement room and shook his head, abiding by our demands. Everyone but Shin and Vika left the observation room. There really is a way to shut down all the Legion, but yes, the merciless Queen Zelene revealed to them the shutdown code for all Legion units deployed across the continent and the triggering procedure for this code. And yet Vika shook his head in frustration. Triggering it wouldn't do anything, and worse yet, if we revealed this to the public, human society could fall apart from the inside. There was only one position from which the shutdown code could be transmitted. An Imperial fortress that was currently nestled deep within Legion territory. That wasn't a critical problem. Even if it was sieged by the Legion, they could still retake it. The strike passage was explicitly made explicitly for such purposes, and it would put a definitive end to the Legion war. They could draw forces from other fronts for a concentrated strike. The problem lay with the one who would transmit the shutdown code, and the only one who could do so was a person with command rights over all the Legion. And to register someone as having that right, they would need to be recognized as descended from the Gideon Imperial bloodline. Specifically, it would require a genetic match, one of loyal blood, who could be acknowledged as commanding authorities over the Legion. And 6 years ago, the Federacy's military wiped that bloodline out, leaving not a single member of that family alive. The blood of the Imperial family, that they did, though. The blood of the Imperial family that ruled over the Empire died 10 years ago. The blue blood of the Empire no longer ran through any living blood, human's blood, except Frederica. If someone could be registered as having authority to control the Legion, they would very likely control the Legion to do their bidding. The shutdown method is a farce. The Federacy's killing the Empire means we've lost the means of stopping the Legion forever. Even Vika felt that this was a truly terrible turn of events. His expression was clearly bitter. As he heaved a sigh, he turned his pensive look on Shen. We'll disclose the rest of the information. We'll disclose the rest of the information Zeline get us to the three countries' intelligence bureaus, but we'll exclude this. Their last scheme of operations and the location of their production facilities should be enough to tide them over. Agreed. Nozen. Agreed. He knew his emotions rarely showed on his face. His feelings were somewhat deadened ever since that day 10 years ago when his brother nearly killed him, but in this very moment, Shin was grateful for that because he couldn't afford to let even Vika know the truth. The Legion could be stopped. It could even be done right now if they were to seize control of the transmission point. Shin wished he could clear away all the people around him, as there was no telling what anyone might do, because Vika didn't know, neither did Lena, Annette, nor the other 86, with the exception of Raiden, Theo, Andrew, and Carino, but at least one of the Western Front's officers knew. Those who took custody of her and spared her life alongside Ernst. They knew that she had survived. How would they react once the information got out? Shin couldn't predict that, just as he couldn't predict of what would become of her after what was all said and done. Frederica, the guillotining emperor's final empress. Augusta Frika Adder. So they just made a little girl one of the story's most important plot points. The hair on the back of my neck stood up at this. I've got goosebumps. This is incredible. I mean, I can see why she won the award in the first place. This woman is writing better than people with 10 times her experience. I mean, this is insane. Everything is coming full circle, you know? The story is... Well, I mean, I'm over the halfway point of the story, at least. I don't believe the 13th volume has been translated at this point, or the 14th. Like, I don't remember which, but... I mean, wow is all I can say. I'm somebody who has a deep appreciation for, like, consistency in storytelling, and when, you know, the story almost rhymes in a way because formerly revealed facts, you know, come full circle in the fashion that this just did and everything. And I like Person of Interest, and I particularly like the way that the people who wrote it were such, like, detailed, obsessed people that they literally... all the episode titles of Person of Interest are also deeply meaningful. You know, like, the person put a lot of thought into things. I'm basically saying, you know, Asoto Senpai has only been published once. Now, I'm aware that she's been writing for a long time at this point. She's not a new writer. I kind of am not surprised by that she had some prior experience and everything. But this is what's so key to me. She is newly published. Everything else that she'd made into this point has not received widespread publication. It wasn't until this is basically her one big, you know, hit thus far. But 86 is better written than a lot of other things that I've written, and people that I've read at this stage of their career were not writing with this degree of quality. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of Mercedes Lackey, but as a writer, she didn't come right in out the gate this good. You know, some of her first Valdemar books are not this high quality. You know, Mercedes Lackey is a writer that's early days were, like, promising. She had potential and everything, and she got better over time writing. Valdemar increases in quality as Lackey has gained a lot of experience in writing. It has picked up steam and gotten to be a better book series. but some of the stuff that was early in the publication order is just not the same in terms of quality as what came after. I mean, I would tell any person who's like read like the first two books and like the Queen's Own book line, finish the third and keep going, because it does in fact get better. I can tell you that from experience. It's pretty good, you know, by the time it all comes together. But Asoto, like I said, she. I'm just gonna say it. You know, I think that Rumiko Takahashi is a national treasure for Japan as well. But this woman is this. You know, Aseto Senpai is a treasure for Japan, and I find a sense of reverence towards this story. I think I feel in awe of it. I've got goosebumps. I think she's incredible.